It's Stik Figa, man, rap nerd from the Black Burbs, and you are listening to the Cabbages Hip Hop Podcast. Listen up.
We should absolutely watch Tremor.
No, we're not watching the fucking Tremors movies.
Why aren't we watching Tremor? Okay, let me try and sell it. Do you mind?
Sure.
There's a
Go ahead.
There's an arc in the movies where like the monsters evolve, right? And during that arc, in the middle of everything, they just drop a movie into the Wild West. And it's like some of the same people. And it's like the solidifying of this town being a town where you fight Tremors. And it's fantastic. Now, I say fantastic with a huge grain of salt. It's really a terrible film. But man, what a movie.
I am tired of watching terrible films.
Okay. That's
we
fair.
Watched a lot of B movie, C movie, D movie type shit.
Okay. Okay. That is fair. That's fair. We can come back to it sometime. I'm not saying it has to be tonight.
I'm not just disparaging like the lesser of the Leprechaun films.
Right.
What I'm saying is like we watched Tom and Jerry.
First of all, there's no lesser Leprechaun film.
Yes,
there are films where people weren't as cool as the Leprechaun.
That's all the films. None of them were as cool as the Leprechaun.
Okay,
There's never was.
Point.
Even Ice-T is the only one who ever came close.
He did come close, though.
He came close, though. Yeah. But no, for my own sanity, I can't just like say we're going to watch really bad films. Like, I don't mind if we end up watching a film that's not great, or a film that we all have to say, oh, that was like all right. Or even if we watch a film like that was bad. But I need to be able to have this mixed in with like something that doesn't rot my brain. I want to feel something good coming out of these. It can't just be losing my mind slowly, episode by episode.
Thus far, okay. So we don't have to do anything episodic this time around. Let's make that a rule.
Okay. Like, I'm not watching a fucking series. I'm not watching Child's Play. I'm not watching Tremors. I'm not watching.
I don't want to watch. I told you I don't want to watch Child's Play.
You've never even seen it, desire. Jesus. No.
I know.
Okay.
You get so mad when I bring it up.
Just okay. You said genre.
Okay.
Genre
so
feels
this
right.
Whole thing,
that feels
this
better.
whole thing is, we talk to each other on the computers or the phone or whatever and watch these films and take notes. Mm-hmm. And I'm just over here like chain smoking weed because these movies are terrible. And that's what you do with terrible movies. We already did the 420. Why don't we just do more?
I mean,
more stoner comedies.
To be fair,
stoner duos.
I really liked when we did How High too.
But I don't want to do like all of the greatest hits. I don't want to do like Friday.
Look, we don't need to convince anybody whether Friday is good or bad. You have an opinion on Friday, and it's either your opinion is that Friday is one of the best movies of all time,
or you're a moron.
You're a fucking moron.
That's right. Tell him, Gary.
Yeah, but look, there's so many stoner films like of varying quality that like we could definitely do a whole season of those.
It's true.
Right?
There's a lot going on with that particular drug right now.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's entirely
specifically for us because of recent legalization, but also just
here in New York City,
across the country, the mood is changing on like, what does weed mean and why are we still imprisoning a ridiculous amount of humans about it?
So it's topical. There's an oeuvre to explore,
and we get to like eat and smoke a lot of weed and watch ridiculous films.
This may be the best idea you've ever come up with.
Are you talking about within the parameters of this podcast or just generally?
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. that you would say that, because you've always hated me and tried to help me down.
Or we could watch Hubie Halloween again.
I just called to say hi, Gary. I just called to say hi, Gary. Hi.
Is that supposed to be like a weed thing?
I have no idea.
I'm so excited to introduce our guest for today's show. Joining us now is Stik Figa. Once a Kansas City rap mainstay, Topeka native and former Mellow Music Group rapper, now operates out of Fort Worth, Texas. He's worked with producers like Apollo Brown, Conductor Williams, and Laurence, just to name a few. He's got upcoming projects with Conductor Williams and another one with DJ Sean P called Easter McVicker Avenue. And you can find much of his discography on Bandcamp and wherever music is streamed or sold. Please welcome Stik Figa to the show.
What's going on, y'all?
We are excited to be talking to you.
So excited.
Love the work you've been doing. Love the work you've been doing with Dr. Williams. Love the work that you've been doing for a while. It feels really good to have somebody whose catalog is as unimpeachable as yours be on a show as dicey as this one.
Well, thank you very much.
I believe the only review we ever got was very impeachable.
Oh, man.
Quite impeachable.
Thank you guys, man. I'm really glad to be here. I really appreciate you guys talking with me.
And we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about Grow House.
Yes.
Grow House.
We came to this movie. Jeff and I decided that we were going to do this movie because of our love for Friday. And
right. Okay, fair.
I want to get a sense of kind of your relationship and your experience with the movie Friday. Are you kind of like a Friday super fan? Are you somebody who loves the trilogy? I'm just kind of wondering what your background with that movie is.
Okay, so Friday is actually my favorite. It might be my second favorite movie, period. Like among genres of movies. Number one is like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. So
it's a good number one.
And because Gene Wilder's performance.
The Gene Wilder. Okay, I needed to.
Yeah, his performance is unmatched. But yeah, Friday is a special movie just because it's not like cinematically the best movie, but it's definitely like a popcorn. It's like it checks a bunch of boxes at once, right? So you got the comedy aspect, you got the smoker aspect. It introduced so many people, you know what I'm saying? And it's like the best hood flick. I think like Friday and Paid in Full are like the best like hood movies that people who aren't into hood movies could watch and still enjoy if they have no, point of reference for growing up in them environments, right?
No, for sure. Yeah. The inside looks into places, entertaining stories.
Yeah. And then the second one is really good. Well, it's funny. The second one is funny on the strength of Mike Epps, introducing Mike Epps and then all of these characters, cast of characters. It pulls off a lot of things well. It falls short in all the places that movies like that fall short. You know what I mean? Like they don't always make any sense, really. Like none of the characters are developed in a way that like the things they do make sense all the time, but it's funny. So with the third one is kind of like the end of the trilogy for me, where it was like, all right, so now this is just a straight to DVD kind of situation with like a few moments in it that are unforgettable. Like again, you got Cat Williams playing the pimp.
Yeah.
You got what's bro name from American Gladiators? The muscular dude.
Oh, it was
Terry Crews. Yeah, Terry Crews. He's got the character that like is not funny anymore, but was funny back then. Like the guy who just got out of prison who's gay. Now you can't do that joke anymore. But
can't do that. It's problematic.
It's problematic joke, but at the time it was hilarious. Like that kind of stuff. So Grow House is kind of in that tradition, but with less of the budget, I guess, and less of the intangibles, the X factor, of the actors that make it immediately funny unless you smoke it.
Where on the Friday spectrum do you land Grow House? Being like 1, 2, 3. Like if you were rating it based on the Friday system.
3.
You're putting it at 3?
Yeah.
I feel like it's a mix of 2 and 3, but I'd go 3 as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like 3. I mean, it tries to pull off a lot of the stuff you want pulled off. Characters, corny white people, at least for me,
No, listen, corny white
corny
people are
hell.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, corny white guy characters.
Always hilarious.
What's the name? DeRay, not a good actor. And some of it is like overacted. Like some of the jokes are overacted. Like I think Duval kind of had like the better understanding of the timing and stuff, but with trying to play off DeRay, I didn't always go too high.
Which is wild because like DeRay has like way more of a filmography. Like
yeah,
he's been
really
in so many movies. Like he was in Barbershop, he was in Semi Pro, he was in Jeff's favorite movie, Old Dogs.
Okay.
The greatest, worst film of all time.
How do we forget that Worm is in this movie?
Mm-hmm.
He's not Worm.
Roland Reg.
But he's Worm, though. He's still Worm.
It's the same exact. I mean, you can't convince me that Worm just like, got paralyzed somehow.
That's what I was thinking, because I'm like, he's still got the curlers in his hair. He's head to toe Dickie suit.
Yep.
And he never stands up.
And it's very possible he just changed his name and moved to this neighborhood and started terrorizing other people.
He is a mobile debt collector in both franchises.
Yo, that's a fact.
And I'm wondering, it made me wonder at one point, especially on the second watch of this film, was whether or not like you have to pay Faison Love extra to stand up, or if it's just like, because he's like, I'm not standing up for Grow House money. I'm sorry.
That would be really funny if they were like, if he did that and they were like, well, then you're crippled. See ya.
And he's in it a lot. Like he's like really in the movie. Like I was wondering if it was a favor or not.
I mean, he has that history obviously with DJ Pooh, and we're obviously going to talk a lot about DJ Pooh at some point in this and kind of his history. But like he is a significant character in here, and actually he understood that he was playing a character clearly that was similar to Big Worm.
Right.
And he's such a great physical comedian. There's the scene where Lil Duval's character takes a swing on him in the house, and when that happens, he does this like bug-eyed, slapsticky reaction to being hit. He is the funniest person in this movie in that moment.
For sure. It tried to do some drama in those moments too, like some melodrama, like the moments where you're supposed to. Let's see, that's another thing, because like in Friday, when it got serious, it felt serious. Even, you know what I'm saying? Like when Smokey is telling Ice Cube, Craig, he telling Craig like, man, that fool ain't gonna do nothing. He just playing. Cube is like, playing? You think he playing about his money? Like it was like it got real. There were these without music intonating or telling you that it was supposed to be serious.
Yeah.
Like they had that moment where it was like it's serious. But like in this movie, nothing felt serious ever. Like when they ruined all them plants.
Right.
Wait, you'll have to be more specific.
Oh yeah, right.
They ruined plants in this movie like
a
150 times. Most of the film is them being like, shit, plants aren't supposed to be hot.
and the turnaround time on that was kind of crazy, right? Like they ruined a whole operation and then just got it back up and running in a matter of a day?
Totally. Through fire, wind, rain, like they were like the mail. It just kept coming.
Yeah, but it's like at no point did you feel like this was gravity happening. Like there was gravity to any of these moments when it the characters are supposed to be. Everything hinges on this.
Of all the things that this kind of reminded me of Friday, the thing that sort of lacked the most was character development.
Yeah,
that like you really learn about the family atmosphere in Friday,
right?
And not even just in Craig's house, but in like all the other houses that you go to. It's a different crazy family situation.
Yeah,
and the varying costs of that are laid for for the consumer. Not so much here. It was just sort of like, this guy's good at fixing cars, but that won't matter ever again. And he has a girlfriend, and now he and his friend who smoke weed we'll be growing weed. I hope that you enjoy the film. Have a good night. We don't, there's no,
Right.
there's just no inner life. There's no inner monologue.
World building, like it didn't build a world for you at all,
No.
Which can be fun and stupid and beneficial if you go all in on how dumb the movie is. But this
Right.
tried to sell me at some point to be like, I really care about these dudes that are very bad at growing plants. I never arrived.
The exposition is so speedy. I timed it. Like the opening scene from fixing Terry's car to Let's Grow Weed takes less than 5 minutes. And that includes meeting Roland Reg. All that happens in such a short period of time. I've learned nothing about these characters and I have nothing about them that makes me want to root for them.
Right. Exactly.
For our 420 episode, we watched How High 2, in which DeRay Davis also appears and is the funniest character in that movie, which set us very high hopes for this one based on that. And it was just like, we cared about that character because he was just riffing. And this is just like, he pulls up and like, he just sucks the energy out of him. I'm like, who is he, just a nerd? Like, what is the deal with this guy?
We don't know a lot about him other than it's like the thing with now I might be forgetting, is the girl that ends up with Roland Reg, it's supposed to be DeRay's character's girl, right?
Well, it's Lil Duval's character's girl, Pat.
Okay, got you. So
but he's just some guy. Like he's just a friend, but he's also like a friend who we don't know why they're friends. He doesn't listen to hip hop.
And he doesn't particularly seem very close with the friend with Duval.
I mean, it's like he just seems like that guy who hangs around for the free weed, right?
Right. Yeah.
So,
but he has good ideas, I guess. But that doesn't really line up with the fact that the man who fixes the cars has like an acumen for some sort of tinkering, does it?
There's two specific scenes where he's working on a car. One of them is like never, there's never any real explanation. He just has like a wrench. And the second one, he's jumping a car, which I have done, and I am terrible with everything.
Right.
I can jump an automobile if need be, I think.
Right. But the irony in that is DeRay's character is wearing a mechanic's suit the whole movie.
The whole movie. Is he a mechanic?
He's not a mechanic. He doesn't do any mechanical anything.
He doesn't. It honestly, it took me until the second viewing to realize that they actually renovate the house during this film.
It seemed to me that the best explanations of anything were when they were explaining why they needed so much time to like fix the house up.
It was going to take 10 weeks.
So like she was like thinking it was going to be a weekend to fix a whole house with two dudes
that apparently had been wrecked. A house that apparently had been wrecked.
She bought that.
Right.
Yeah, like
her character buys that story.
It's like, I'm sorry, if anybody's ever had anybody's friends do contractor work for them, that shit takes longer than 10 weeks. Easy.
Man.
And not to mention the fact that like this dude planned to use this as a grow house during the period in which they're supposed to fix it, and never expected the owner of the house to come to the house and like look around at the progress.
And never expected his girlfriend to show up, the girlfriend's boss to show up, never expected anything. The only concerns they had were two nosy neighbors.
If I'm the manager of this situation, I maybe am not super pumped about her hiring her boyfriend to fix the house.
If this is what you do, you manage properties and flip houses or whatever the fuck it is. Like, Are you telling me that you don't have guys who do this shit for you?
Come on. Ridiculous plot.
A handyman? Is this supposed to be a handyman?
It's a stoner comedy, so we have to step back and recognize this is not fucking David Mamet. Like, we weren't dropped into a fantastic universe. Like, we were dropped into a flimsy plot premise that allows you to make funny jokes about being high. But
David Mamet.
But the longer that you look into that and you gaze into that, you go like, wait, this doesn't make any fucking sense.
There was an inordinate amount of nonsense for how much we also got no character development. Whereas like, if you were like spending a lot of time giving us a world, then maybe, I can excuse some like, we're missing parts. You know what I mean? I'm not really all that concerned per se, But when it's pronounced and I don't know what the hell these guys have ever done in their lives, then yeah, I'm going to have questions.
So here's my question. Does Snoop just hand out 10 grand to people? Is that just how it works? Can we just get 10 grand from Snoop?
If you have his number.
There's a couple things about the rap story subplot that's confusing, is that Duval never rapped in the film. He didn't rap once. And then 2, Snoop is supposed to be aware of this guy's rap career, but no one else is. How does Snoop know about your rap career and nobody else in the film knows about it? That was confusing.
Like, it's like he had like a hot mixtape and like it just only went to like a certain level. The thing about the film, and this is something that I only learned because I've been conditioned by Marvel movies, is I stayed through the end credits and there's a fucking Grown Gangsta music video at the end.
Oh, yeah,
there is.
It's a little Easter egg at the end, your end credit scene, and it is. I mean, look, it's not living my best life. I could tell you that.
But is it funny though?
A little.
Okay.
A little. It might have been funnier if they had shown it at some point during the narrative of the film.
That's what I'm saying. That would have been important.
We were texting each other being like, why? Why is this happening? Why? Why now? Why hide this thing? You made it.
Yeah, it should have been in the movie.
Absolutely. The only person that raps during the film, if I remember correctly, is the person spitting the hook in Snoop's studio.
Correct.
And it's like
who keeps getting interrupted?
100% the opposite of something Snoop Dogg would want to have made at that point.
It might explain why Snoop kept interrupting him to have a conversation with a faded mixtape rapper who's coming to him with bad gold fronts looking for 10 G's.
If that's true, then I feel like I owe that scene an apology because it's very clever.
Snoop has some funny parts in it, though. Let's give him some credit. That scene actually has some good bits. I think the best part is when they step out into the hallway outside to have a conversation because Pat has offered Snoop half of the grow.
Was that $10,000 worth of weed? I keep bringing up.
Oh yeah, no. Let's bring that up because I'm like, Darius got offered half of the grow, and then they come back in the room and they realize he's heard everything they're saying. He's like, I'm not taking third, and he says, I hear everything, and don't forget it.
This movie was ridiculous.
So yeah, you have a legitimate question about the finances.
Well, I question whether or not that was $10,000 worth of weed. For the amount that I get for $60 on a regular occasion, that doesn't look to me like if I'm giving somebody $10,000, I don't want to be able to like transport the weed in one car. Does that make sense? Like he was like, there was 2 bags, $10,000.
I mean, look, there's a series of terrible decisions they make, business or otherwise, throughout this movie, but it's like, Snoop makes a weird investment at the start. He just says, I'm gonna give you 10 grand and I want half, with 2 entirely inexperienced people who have never grown weed before in any real way. So half of what? What are you getting half of?
Right.
Just that's the start. What are you getting
like
half
if I
of?
roll into the grow house that I sponsored for $10,000 and they hand me a couple bags of weed, new people weed, like people didn't know what they were doing weed, I'm gonna feel like I failed.
Especially someone like Snoop, who is a connoisseur. Yeah, he's not casual. He's not a casual smoker. He's the Willie Nelson of my culture. So
yeah,
I can't imagine that he would trust 2 inexperienced growers on the first go
and take it instead of money. Is he gonna sell it? I mean, I guess he's snooping. $10,000 isn't that big a deal.
No, like he wipes his ass with that. But it's just like he walks into the house wearing a Cookies t-shirt, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. That's correct.
Why the fuck is he wasting his time when he's got fucking burner offers? Why is he wasting his time with these guys who've never sold anything, who've never grown anything, have shown no proficiency towards it? They stumble into.
Corona had not come calling yet.
This is important.
He was not in as many commercials then as he may be now.
He did not have the show at Martha yet. That's true.
That's true. Right. Exactly.
Okay, I think if we're going to talk about the grow house, we have to talk about the people who surround this grow house, and I have to ask, who is the worst character in this movie, and why is it Madison?
That's two questions. That's unfair. That's a conjunctive question. You want to take that one?
Well, the thing about because Matt, okay.
If you disagree, you could disagree because
Well,
there
no,
are
no,
contenders,
she's
but
definitely the worst. But she's like the character from the second Friday, who's like, remember the one that Ice Cube wanted real bad, right? The attractive Hispanic character.
right.
He's smoking and he's dreaming of her, and he's like, "You heard of El Niño? But this is El Negro." Anyway,
Right.
that character. So she's the same thing, right? Like she's not a person. I know that sounds terrible.
No, I don't. I mean, like it's a fictional character. It wasn't a human. Like human aren't.
But she didn't have any like human. She didn't offer anything to the movie.
Right.
She just was there.
I think she wore the same running outfit the entire time.
For like a week straight, man.
They don't explain what her deal is other than having a dog and running.
And obviously, like being a little bit loaded.
The thing is, like, in
that's it. That was her only role, was to be attractive,
just to be bad. And it's like all right, she bad, but it's just like at the same time, it's like, okay, usually in a stoner comedy, there is some sort of like arc to that character. You're introduced to them, you got to win that person over, or they have some kind of connection or drawn to you. And this was just like, I suck. And then the very end, it's just like, but I'm actually not so bad. I smoke weed sometimes. Let me get in your car.
To be fair to stoner culture, there's a lot of people that I'm just like, their whole life around me, they've sucked. And then we smoked weed once and was like, they're not so bad.
Maybe that's what it was.
I was a little forgiving of that specific scene. And it's something that I think they did well in this movie is they treated the smoking of marijuana like a fun communal thing. True. It's like not like in back alley smoking Joe. They were like, oh man, you know what would be really good while I do this stupid poor planning of plants? I'll smoke a joint.
What was the white name that knew everything suddenly?
Oh wait, are you
referring to Conspiracy Chris?
Or
Conspiracy Chris. All right. So
let's get into Conspiracy Chris. I'm ready.
These are my woke observations of the film.
Please.
Why is it that the film is made by black people, so I guess I can't throw too many. But I was like, why is it suddenly that like the white dude shows up and he's capable when no one else was capable? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like the two main characters are incompetent essentially.
Oh yeah,
right.
It's like we need a white boy to show us how it's done. Like, you know what I'm saying?
In 2017 too was like the absolute peak of actually still being able to get information from the internet.
Right.
And not get sold like a bunch of products, but to actually like, oh, this is an interesting thing about how to grow wheat. I should read and understand it before we start this grow house so that I don't get pitched a new partner by a dude in a plant store.
In the plant store.
Oh yeah, that was the plant store weirdo Matt, who's if you've ever seen the movie Scary Movie, the original, the first Scary Movie, that's Officer Doofy. David Sheridan. It's this. What I couldn't figure out where I recognized him at first, and I looked it up. I'm like, because this using the same fucking voice.
The nerdy white voice.
Yeah, using the same voice in both.
That guy
going to the plant store, and he
hustled the shit out of those characters.
Yeah,
he was like, I get to plant my own dude who takes away way more than you from the actual weed supply, and I get like, I get the credit of making this massive sale at work. And on top of it, like you're also going to give me a bunch of weed.
Yes.
For making this connection that like, again, like Craigslist. You could have just gone in there and like thinking of starting a grow house, and the advice and some crazy people would tell you some wild shit. And it would probably be better than the result you got with this weird plant store guy.
Agreed.
Like Conspiracy Chris is a, I mean, he's another trope, and he's, you know, you're playing on kind of a like stoner who knows a lot about weed shit, but also doesn't seem to be able to function in society. We never quite learned what his conspiracy stuff was. And
It
to
had
your,
particular conspiracies.
yeah, what was his, he just was a guy who seemed like he knew a lot about weed, and he slept when he wasn't working on the weed. So,
I
okay.
feel like this happens a lot in bad weed movies. They're like, everyone who's going to watch this is going to be really high, so they don't really care about like exposition, but like that's where all the humor is.
He sort of was thrust into this like flawed though he may be, this sort of white savior role to help these two incompetent guys figure it out.
That's the phrase I was looking for. White savior role.
It's that's like he's this inverse Bagger Vance who's supposed to like magically
inverse Bagger Vance.
Like, I'm gonna show them the way.
Stop. That's the best phrase. Stop the show. It's over. We did it. We arrived. If it ends right now, we made a perfect phrase.
First Bagger Vance.
Oh, that's my new rap name. IBV, my rap name. Good. Inverse Bagger Vance.
But like you ultimately have this problem where we're turning to this character, and the truth is, like, and let's just face it, the guy who plays Conspiracy Chris, Martin Starr, is generally he is usually the worst part of anything he's in. He's the worst part of Party Down. He's the worst part of Silicon Valley. He generally sucks.
Yeah, I was going to bring that.
But very oddly, all the things that you just named totally rule.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I as much as I don't like that dude, and I like really have zero need for smarmy stoners. You know what I mean? Dudes that are just like, everything you say is pointless and we're all going to die. I get it. He was also in Adventureland. And like all of these things are things that totally rule. Like I have zero complaints with like 90% of the shit this guy's in. He was in Community for a very short stint. Maybe just one episode.
Wasn't he?
He was in all kinds of great
Freaks
stuff.
And Geeks.
Like, Freaks and Geeks, a perfect piece of television lore. And like, you're right, he's not the best, but everything he does, minus maybe this movie that I've seen, I'm just like, oh, this is really good. Why is this so good with this guy like non-plussing everything that ever happens?
I think we have to finally talk about the real elephant in the room here is DJ Pooh.
Correct.
DJ Pooh has not written a good script for this movie.
I always wonder if any script gets written for certain films. Like I know Friday was like a master work between him and Pooh.
Yeah,
like
no question.
Years in the making. But I wonder sometimes, does a guy like Pooh who's been in a certain genre or been making films a certain way, just kind of like say, hey, this is the idea. And you're kind of depending on, like, I think I saw an interview with Mike Epps talking about how in Friday 2 that anything he did was not in the script.
Right.
All ad-libbing and improv for the most part. And I think it was I watched the interview with Michael Blackson and Duval was being interviewed by Snoop, and that's what he told Snoop as well. He was like, yeah, we didn't, nothing that happened in the scene, you know, motherfucker, I can't get jiggy with this, none of that.
No.
Like,
right.
He said the only thing that was on paper was whatever he said when he walked in and asked him about the CD.
Yeah, I mean, look, so many great comedies rely on improv, and obviously, I think a lot of, especially the earliest scenes in the film between Pat and Darius, are 100% two stand-up comics riffing off of each other.
Right.
Totally see that, totally get it, and to various effect, but like that's what that is. That's just them doing a little bit of improv. So I think that plays in here. But then there's, you know, I'm just not willing to absolve DJ Pooh entirely of at least getting us to that point, the plot points that get us there. You know, it's like, because you can do the same thing with like, you know.
I mean, this is writer and director. There's not too many other people to talk about when you talk about Blame.
There's a reason why nobody talks about The Wash. Like there is a movie that exists. If you, for anybody listening who's not aware, there is a movie that exists. It's called The Wash. It stars Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. You have never heard of this movie. It is directed by DJ Pooh, co-writer of Friday. Chances are you have never heard of this movie or seen this movie.
What's crazy about that movie too?
What
is the soundtrack is the song with Truth Hurts.
Mm-hmm.
That song was for that movie.
Yes.
That song is great. You know what I'm saying?
Misplaced.
But to think that that's, and it ended up being the diss record beat for, you know, the thing that ended it with Jay and Nas. Like that record is important, but the movie ended up not being. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of wild to me.
Can I ask a question that's sort of relevant to what you're talking about this Grow House movie?
Yeah.
Did an out-of-town drunkard pick the songs for this film?
Yeah, what was up with the soundtrack?
It was total nonsense. It would throw you at every turn. You'd be like, oh, sick, we're about to like grow some weed, listen to some Snoop or something. Nope, here's Steve Miller. Abracadabra and a deep cut at that.
At that. Good record. But yeah, I don't know how it happened.
The movie opens, the opening credits is Be Real, and you're like, great, okay, Cypress Hill. I feel it. I'm watching a movie about weed. Great.
Yep.
I'm on board.
And then it's just like, okay, now for the weed growing montage, you're going to play Steve Miller Band, Abracadabra. This movie literally has Snoop Dogg in it. He's in the movie.
Wiz Khalifa is on 2 separate songs on the soundtrack, and I don't remember either one of them being used. I looked at the soundtrack intently because I wanted to make some sense of it.
I remember at least one of those Wiz Khalifa moments, and that was when oh God, is when Darius smokes the bug out weed, the bug spray weed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes,
and thinks he's at fucking Rolling Out. He thinks he's at Rolling Loud, and he's like, then I heard Wiz Khalifa.
You're right. I was so lost in that scene that I don't know if I was paying much attention to the song choice.
You're just staring at the shake weight.
Oh, how can we forget about the white lady character that fetishizes the black dude?
How could we forget about Mrs. Gilliam?
I mean, I try to forget about it every moment of my life.
That character is, I mean,
also in Something About Mary, right?
Yeah.
She was all, no, look, she has played horny older lady before in Kingpin.
Yeah, Kingpin too.
She's the landlady who makes Woody Harrelson. She's a veteran character actor, done a dizzying number of movies. I think she's in the Insidious films now. Like,
nice.
There were choices that were made in this, and one of the choices, and I just got to say it, the way she pronounces BBC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
It's almost as if she had learned English by mail, because the pronunciation of it is just like, where would you see that? It's the letter B, it's the letter B, and it's the letter C. So her BBC Wolf is what she came up with.
That's what leads me to believe that like the script was wildly issued at pretty much any juncture.
I just can't. There's too many moments in it where I'm like, I don't think there was a script. It just couldn't have been.
That character, man, it was really something. They went for it. That's, to be fair to the film and to what that character did. It was
still funny.
It was the hardest in the paint that they went.
Yeah. That was like the riskiest thing they did in the
totally movie. They went all in on this character being just like starving.
Yeah.
For this man. Just hands and knees starving. And got hers.
That plot twist where suddenly white girl wasted all the time on white wine suddenly has the wherewithal and realizes they have a grow house and blackmails blackmails him into sex. And it's just like, wait a second, like, where the fuck did this happen? How did this come together? You suddenly got a clue.
She's the only person in this film that has a successful transaction with the film. She's the only one that gets what she wants. Nobody else gets, you can debate whether or not Snoop got his, but like, I get the feeling that he got screwed in that deal. That it wasn't $10,000 worth of weed. It certainly wasn't good. And
it was a good weed.
And lastly, he got zero money. He just gave them $10,000 for some scrub brush.
Yeah, I mean,
so she's the only one that wins. She gets what she wants.
How many terrible comedies made by white directors have done horrible caricatures of working with the black actors that they work with, the black and brown actors? Like, it's something about
100%.
It's something about, like, it almost feels like course correction, because so many times the black character in these films is degraded or treated as this, like, comical stereotype that like insults the viewer. So it's like, okay, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it with the old white lady. We're going to do this with the fucking Grateful Dead stoner guy. Right. And we're going to do this with A Clockwork Orange, Malcolm McDowell, Dr. Doobie.
Dr. Doobie. Yeah.
The best character. Actually, I take it back. That guy got what he wanted too, because he just got to make fun of two stoners the entire time. He was magnificent.
So that's what you think was going on in the office visit? He was just fucking with them?
Yeah, man. He was fucking with them the whole time. He was just like, okay, I'm going to see how far they take this before I give them what they want. That's a classic doctor move.
How about the graphics or the what do you call that? The special editing visual effect when he electrocuted himself?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Where the budget was mostly spent, do you think?
I mean, I can't imagine that it was a cheap shot. They actually electrocuted someone. You could see it.
You saw he actually got electrocuted. You saw his bones and everything. It was crazy.
I mean, that's dangerous.
That's like Tom and Jerry. That's pure Tom and Jerry right there.
I was like, yo, this is expensive. That looked expensive.
It's wild because, like, this movie had no budget and was clearly made in like a weekend, but they found the time.
This is the only movie that I knew about beforehand that I went to Rotten Tomatoes and it had no rating. I've never seen that shit before. It has no rating. It has one.
Let me look at this.
One critic was like, "It's not bad." That was basically the whole review was. And
could have been worse.
It was like really like this long paragraph just to say like, it's a movie. If you're looking for a movie, don't.
Yeah, a movie. If you're looking for a movie,
they made it. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
That's funny.
And then the critics or the non-critic score is like high. It's like 72. People kind of liked it.
Well, there you go. There it is.
They just didn't give it a rating. Or like, we can't give it 100%. Nobody watched it.
How do these films turn profit now? That's what I think about all the time too. Or like, I don't know how many B movies you just sit around watching, because I do it. Me and my sister, it kind of became like a thing for us because we used to live in Germany. My dad, we just had all the blaxploitation flicks on Betamax just to show how old I am. Because I couldn't watch anything in English in Germany, so I just watched blaxploitation flicks, right?
Yeah.
But then like the carryover for that was like a threshold for watching a bad movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, where you would just watch the whole thing, like, oh, okay.
So
it's on.
My sister ran a video store for years. And so I kind of had this, never-ending wellspring, and like, 10 to 15% of it was like art house, beautiful films, which if you just watch them back to back to back, I just don't have like a high capacity for like caring about like really delicate visions all the damn time. So there was just like always a box of DVDs of shit that nobody wanted to watch in that art house store. And I was like, yep, all of it. Give me dirty work. Give me all of the like worst films that you can possibly heap upon me. I want to study this. I don't know why that happened, but it happened.
But it happened. It's the same kind of thing. So it's like movies like Grow House and a wealth of others on Tubi. Because I don't know. I got a buddy who just calls me and is like, have you seen, Yesterday's Tomorrow? And it's like, nah, like, why is it? How did you see it? It's on Tubi. It's like all these movies on Tubi. I'm like, how do they turn a profit?
I just learned Tubi existed like last month.
Right.
Did you?
I was like, oh my God, there's something other than Crackle? I'm in.
Yeah.
There's a lot that happened in this film that's ridiculous, and there's a lot of absurdity, but like, I think one of the things that I find interesting about this film, it dealt with something that lingers today, and that's the impact of medical marijuana and cannabis legalization on the existing neighborhood drug trade. And what happens when these dispensaries come through, run by existing operators, almost certainly going to skew white. The film raises this issue. The reason why they did this grow house to make money is that they thought they could sell to the dispensaries.
Right.
Like, rather than saying we're going to grow this weed to sell to the community, we're going to sell to these third parties who are then supplying everybody else. It's actually a really sophisticated problem that gets put into the slapstick context. How do you kind of see the challenges that legalization poses now to the neighborhood drug trade?
Because the knife is kind of cut in a few ways, right? So on the ground level, most people would trust that they're weed man. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where the economy kind of circles around, is their weed man. Like I go to my guy because he's gonna have it for this, right?
Right.
But then on the flip, it's like if we start getting weed Walmarts, I guess it's kind of how I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is they gonna start pushing out the little guy, And I'm not feeling that. And then two, it's not legal here yet. So if you're in Oklahoma, for example, because I heard Oklahoma actually, there's a cookies in Oklahoma.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, there are certain counties that have passed some sort of legislation that allow, legal or medical marijuana. But it's like if you're traveling from Oklahoma to Texas with work or with weed, you get caught in Texas, you still looking at doing some time.
Right.
Whereas you got people you got white folks who you see in pictures of them in Sperry's and stuff talking about I just invested into marijuana. You know what I mean? Like living freely in California. So it's like, this is a tough one, man. Because I personally feel like everyone should just come home on a weed charge. Yeah. Like if you sit in prison on a weed charge right now, you should just come home. I don't know what Biden's got legislated should be coming down, but that's how I feel about it.
I'm gonna say he doesn't.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go out on a really
short on a limb, right? Yeah, go out on
a short, very sturdy limb and say that shit's not happening under Joe Biden's rule.
Yeah, so it's like it's one of those things too, because it's like, yeah, if you're still selling weed in Texas, you could still potentially end up in prison. Still,
yeah, we've decided to dedicate this season to watching stoner movies, watching these stoner comedies, and that means that we're looking at it from this lens right now of legalization, and it's uneven, and it's been largely based around states because the federal level, it's not moving. The needle hasn't moved. Racist policing only makes these matters worse.
Right.
In that the targeting happens. That guy in the Sperry, even if he wasn't in California, they could do just fine,
Right.
And even now, it's like, I know that there are some people who could walk down the street in New York right now with it, and no one's going to bat an eye. And others, it might not be the thing you get busted for, but it might be the thing that prompts a stop that causes other problems. I feel like we have somewhat of a responsibility in looking at these films to just recognize some of the trauma that goes into this. Yes, we have to have these absurdist moments and laugh at ridiculous shit about it because like these would be horror films otherwise.
Right.
Even as flawed as this film is, one of the things that I appreciate about it is that it spends very little time on the fear of law enforcement.
Yeah, because it's like a
They
relief.
sort of have to get over it, like in the first scene where they're smoking next to the cop. It sort of serves to be like, okay, they're good. We've addressed that issue and now we're moving on.
Because because I mean that's what these films are though for a lot of, like I was saying about blaxploitation flicks too. It's kind of the same kind of thing where it's like this is the version of the, we making our own movies in this version of the film or the movie we get to make. It goes this way. To operate in escapism in that way.
In so many of these films, it's to give power to people who don't necessarily have power, or are perceived as not having power.
Right.
The thing about this thing is that I don't, we spent a long time ragging on this movie, but somewhere in that movie, the reason I'm frustrated is that like it's a realistic depiction of what it is to like start a business and try to make something, like try to make products.
Yeah.
It's hard and it's kind of cool that these people failed in a way. Yeah. It's just that none of it was earned and I didn't care about them.
Right.
And that was ultimately more frustrating because I think the message here was everybody makes a ton of mistakes and you can still walk away from this thing feeling good, which is a great message to me, that like failure isn't like the only way to look at this.
Absolutely.
But like I was just kind of caught up in the fact that everybody sucked. Fucking if the movie sucked and like it was right there for the taking.
Right. There were opportunities.
There's been a lot of chatter about a fourth Friday movie, about Last Friday. I mean, that's been talked about for a long time, and now it's like kind of amplified with Ice Cube sort of coming out against, the studio for not letting him make it and this and that. And like DJ Pooh would be involved because he wasn't involved in Next Friday or Friday After Next. Right. He's credited with characters, but in his own admission, he has nothing to do with the writing of those films, but he does seem to be keen on being part of Last Friday. Does Grow House bode well for Last Friday being a good movie, assuming that DJ Pooh and Ice Cube reunite for Last Friday?
If Ice Cube was at all responsible for the like humanity surrounding the characters in Friday and can still pull that off and whatnot, I would get excited about them teaming back up. I mean, like Friday's on the level of like Mad Villain. You know what I mean? Like those two people getting back and like hearing them again, I'm going to get excited even if I don't love it or whatever.
Right.
I'm still going to be really pumped out that they're like making art together.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it bodes pretty well.
Yeah.
To me.
I concur. I mean, I think that's the thing about the nostalgia surrounding the power of the trilogy is that the first one was a classic. The second one was whatever the step above serviceable is. I don't know what the word for that is, but
I think it's just good, right?
And then the third one was like, man, you kind of held out hope, like this could have been better. So I think we're all kind of hanging on the desire for the final one. However it shapes up, we just want it. It's like, we just want it. It's we might end up like Coming to America 2. We should have been careful what we asked for, but we.
But that one too, I think I said this
the same kind of thing. Like I wasn't mad that it existed. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I still have so much nostalgia for Eddie Murphy and for those characters.
That's ultimately where I landed with that movie too. Is like, look, I watched the first one a billion times.
Yeah,
it's a great film, and they basically just like had a family reunion on camera.
Exactly.
And I'm fine.
Shared it with us,
And they like recalled the old times, and we all had, deviled eggs, and we split. It's not a big deal.
Right,
I'm not really all that upset that the movie didn't change the shape of the universe.
Right. Absolutely.
Just, I wasn't looking for that. And in Friday with a Last Friday, I think I'd be in the same boat. Like I'm not going to go into Last Friday thinking these dudes that did something a long time ago can recreate the magic of a film from, decades ago.
And with so many people not living, You know, you got
Right. John Witherspoon.
and
R.I.P.
Debo is gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
Like
Who carried the weight of a villain incredibly well.
so well. Absolutely.
And as an unseasoned actor at that point too, like
Right.
he did not have a filmography at that point.
Yeah, just wrestling, but he did it.
Exactly.
He did it to the T. You know.
I think the way forward for Last Friday has to be coming with some lowered expectations, which I think if you're going to come to any stoner comedy, you can't come to it with high expectations. I think one of the reasons why people love Friday so much.
I see what you did there. High expectations. Well done, Gary.
Doom.
I'm sorry. Continue.
The kid's on fire.
That's on me.
The kid's on fire, isn't he?
You know, when you make a podcast with a stoner, like this is literally the fucking scene in The Bank with George Wallace.
Oh God, they wasted George Wallace.
Where they wasted, like, hold on. Yeah. It's the scene where they were like, every time Pat says something, Darius chuckles because like high, grow, like it's every time Pat's talking, Darius is like, and like George Wallace.
Are you saying that I'm your Darius? Because I accept.
I mean, you're definitely not my George Wallace. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
Wow. That's hurtful.
Yeah, well,
I understand, but it is hard. It's really the way you said it